President Biden credits himself for the latest jobs report that just came out, but how is the economy actually doing? All right, joining me to discuss is Peter Schiff, who's a chief economist and global strategist. Thank you so much for your time, Peter. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Yep, doing well, thanks. So I want to first talk about the pretty rosy jobs report that just came out today. Many economists saying the state of the labor force is strong. Of course, President Biden is taking this opportunity to credit his policies for this. Peter, does this indicate the economy is looking up?
No, in fact, I don't think there's anything to take credit for. First of all, the jobs number, sure, it was better than expected, but we'll probably end up revising it to worse than expected next month. That's pretty much what they do. They come out with a number, and then the following month, they revise it lower. But even if you look at the, I think, 199,000 jobs, 24% of those jobs were just striking auto workers or, motion picture workers going back to jobs they already had because they settled their strikes. So that's not really job creation. And then 82% of the rest of the jobs that were created were government jobs and healthcare jobs. So these are not, the productive jobs that are, you're producing goods that we need, that we can consume, that we can export. And all these government workers have to be paid for by the private sector. That means the government has to run even bigger deficits. That means they have to create more inflation to pay their salaries. That puts more upward pressure on prices. So, I don't think we have a strong labor market. Meanwhile, of course, the jobs that we are creating are part-time jobs. They're low-wage jobs. People are taking second and third jobs because the economy is so weak that you can't get by on one job anymore. So most people need multiple jobs.
All right. Well, thank you for breaking that down for us. It's quite different than what we see from many of the news reports that are out there right now in the headlines. I just wanted to move on to talk about the fact that the price of gold hit a record high earlier this week, but now, of course, we know that's gone down to normal. But about the fact that it did hit a record high, but the fact that people did buy gold more, what does that say about the state of the economy?
Well, I think if people really understood just how bad it is and how much worse it's going to get, they'd be buying a lot more gold because inflation is a huge problem and it's only going to get worse. The talk of the Fed successfully returning inflation to 2%, that's all talk. It's not going to happen. The genie is out of the bottle. There's no putting it back in. In the meantime, we're headed for a severe recession. In fact, I think we're going to have a worse financial crisis than the one we had in 2008. In fact, we'd already be in it if it wasn't for the bailouts of the banks earlier in the year, back in March. But that has a short shelf life. I think the problems that underlie the banking system are building. The entire banking system is insolvent based on more than 10 years of 0% rates. They've loaded up on low-yielding long-term bonds. They're underwater in those positions. Meanwhile, I think the real economy is weakening. The deficits are skyrocketing. The structural deficits, the national debt, it's almost 34 trillion now, but it's rising by several trillion a year. And more importantly, the interest cost is skyrocketing. It's now almost $1 trillion a year. By the end of next year, it will be $2 trillion a year. We'll be paying more for interest on the national debt than we do for Medicare or Social Security, and it's going to keep on rising. So this is a fiscal time bomb that's going to blow. And I think people would be buying more gold if they understood, how short this fuse was.
Peter Schiff, chief economist and global strategist, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.